Okay, I've got the main structure built. Yesterday, my neighbor gave me a big pile of beams. I have 7 3.5, almost 4 meter beams. I have 2 large posts, like 6x6 posts, a 4x4, a 6x6. So he gave me a lot of lumber that is still good. It's been painted, and he just had it in his yard under a cover and offered it to me for free. So I went and picked that up. So I'm gonna use that as the roof structure. Now this little section here, I was just gonna fill that in with solid wood, but I found that I had a window that was a skylight, or a window above the door of a double door system that I picked up, and I think it'll fit right inside between these 2 4x4s. So I'm going to get that piece and put it in here, and I'm gonna remove this corner brace because I don't think I'm going to need it once I get that window in there. And I'm just going to bolt that window directly in. This window here will go in the big hole. It's not the window for this hole. That window was broken, so this window will fit, but it's just a little bit too small. This is just going to screw right into the window, and then here it's going to have a little bit of filler panel that's going to be needed. So I'm going to take and move the window all the way to the edge here, screw it in around the frame, and then whatever's left over here, I'm just going to fill it in with a small piece of wood, spray foam, or something like that. Now this window is here, and I just need to clean it. It's got some mud packed in the areas where this hinge mechanism goes. So I'm gonna have to clean that out and get that mounted, and I'll have all my windows mounted. I'm going to use one of these beams. You can see how big these things are here. They're really, really meaty beams. So I'm gonna use one of them to replace this 1x here. I just had that up there to kind of keep the post square and make it somewhat sturdy. So I'm gonna go ahead and mount that in place. Then I can figure out what I'm gonna do as far as a roof. Now I am going to build like a carport covered area here. All of this area will be covered. That could ultimately be where I keep all my firewood, my yard tools, and that kind of stuff. I'll be thinking about that while I'm mounting all this other stuff up, but I'm gonna go ahead and get all this stuff installed and get it out of the way. All right, so I have all the windows mounted. This area will need to be filled in. Not sure what I'm going to use yet. I have greenhouse plastic that I can use. I can just board it up and put some sort of wood paneling on it with insulation. And then I have this little area here below that other window, and that window fit in there so perfectly. I had to tap it in with a hammer to make it fit. I've got all the windows bolted in and permanently secured. So now the task is to close in this back wall and get a roof on it. I'm not sure what I'm gonna do with these yet, but I'm gonna think about that and then we'll get back on it. Okay, so it's another day. Yesterday I mounted the main beam here and did the support bracing. That strengthened up those 2 walls and this rear wall here. So I set this up here just to get the slope, and this is a 112 slope, so that's plenty for what I need to do. I'm going to need 5. I have 4. I'm going to need 4 roof sections of 1 meter wide. This is a little over 3 meters. It's like 3.5 meters wide here. So I'll need 4 roof sections at 1 meter. So that means I need 5 of these beams here. So what I need to do now is remove all of the screws and bolts and nails. They do have some larger fastening devices. So I need to go through and make sure that I've got all my metal out, and I'm gonna have to cut it twice because my saw doesn't cut all the way through these boards. So these are 6 inches tall. That should be plenty for what I need to do with the roof. And I am going to leave them full length like this. And then when I decide to put my covered carport type area here, I will just come right off of those and go over to the side, and we'll have beams and posts and things over here. I'll be using the post that he gave me. Then I'm going to mount the door, and then we'll build a door frame around it. Then we'll finish our wall here with whatever materials I can use. Okay, I'd originally planned to rip these roof joists in half, but way too many nails and really big nails, spikes through the top that would not come out. So I just decided to use them. They're going to be super strong, way overbuilt. It's fine. So I still have one left, and I have 4 different size posts. They're all different thicknesses and different lengths. I'm going to have to figure out what I'm going to do with those when I go ahead and do the whole roof. So I may just save those, put those in the corner, just kind of get them out of my way from here. Now the next order of business is to install the door here, and then this flat piece of concrete here is going to be kind of my threshold, and my door will just sit on top of that. So I have a metal frame at the base, so I want that to be, it's going to sit directly on this concrete piece, and then we'll be ready to install the pieces that fill in the rest of it here. All right, so it started to rain on me, so I decided to go ahead and get this threshold base frame put in. So what I did is I leveled these grid stones. As you can see, the ones in the back here, these aren't level. They're just flat on the ground. But this one, this roll is level, this way and that way. What I did is I dry poured a bag of concrete across the center row and really focused a lot here in this area. And what I'm going to do is mount my door right in the middle of the wall, and then we'll have grow beds going all the way around, possibly like small tables on the back edge for doing starts and seedlings and that kind of stuff. So when the door opens, it'll open against that grow bed. That will maximize the amount of space I have, and then maybe I can even have some shelving along the top here that when I get my starts made, I can just set them on the shelves above the grow beds. So we're gonna let that dry for a day, and then I'll come back out and really hose it down again and really get it wet, and then we can start building the structure for the door and completing this rear wall. All right, it's another day working on the little greenhouse. Today I'm going to be mounting the door and building the door frame and getting all that stuff installed. So what I've got going on here first is the threshold. This is a concrete slab that is usually used for the border of a garden area or something, but I'm just going to lay it flat. That's going to be the main threshold. There is a small threshold on the bottom of the door, so that will sit on this stone. Then I'll have a wood framing, basically 2x4s that will be the sides and top. Got metal brackets that I have bolted on. This was original bolts. There's like a little sliding mechanism in here where you can bolt in these metal brackets. Now, I didn't use something like this, but I found these at the hardware store for under $2 for 5 of them. So I bought 2 packs, and I've got those bolted in. That has given me almost like the perfect setting inside the 2x4 frame here. I've already got my pieces cut to length. This is going to be the top, and it will screw in to the roof or the beam up here. Then these 2 pieces will screw into the sides of this. The door will be bolted to the wood structure, and then all of that will be glued with construction adhesive and also spray foam. Spray foam will be underneath the metal frame. It has a like maybe 10 millimeter void here. So I'm just gonna spray a nice bead of foam underneath right before I set it in place. I'll set it in place, we'll bolt it in, and then I can spray foam all the edges so that it basically glues everything in place. The stone threshold here, I'm going to mortar it in place with a quick set mortar. I need maybe 2 to 3 millimeters under there. So I'm going to use my trowel. I'm going to spread a nice little thin layer out. I'm going to set it, and then I'm going to put my 2x4s in place to give me my perfect height. I've already got those 2x4s cut to the length they need to be cut. Once I have that framing in place, I can sit the door in place and then level everything and make it perfect. So I'm gonna get started on mortaring this piece in and getting my 2x4 set. Okay, we've got it set in place, wedged it up just a little bit to tighten the boards up, got the boards level and plumb, and now we're just going to let that set up. That usually, I think this says it takes about 30 to 40 minutes to kind of start setting up, and then I'll set my door in place and bolt it in. Okay, so I have took the vertical supports out and put a nice amount of construction adhesive on the bottom, painted it onto the 2x4, and then I squirted a nice big bead on the concrete and then set it in place, got it all level, and now I have squared it diagonally, so that is perfect. I should have about 5 millimeters of play on either side, so 10 millimeters total, and I've got between 4 and 5 millimeters vertical. So that should let me make the door perfect in the hole. So I'm going to let all of that cure for a while, and then I'll come back and put my door in. But that looks nice. Okay, so I've got the door test fit in there. I've used these L brackets to connect the 2x4s to the concrete. I have two 10 millimeter anchors with lag screws holding it to the concrete, and then I just have two large Torx head screws holding the 2x4. I don't have to worry so much about it going this way. It's when the door gets shut is when I would have a problem with the 2x4 moving. So opening shouldn't be a problem. All the strain will be at the top. But when the door slams, that's when you'll need these anchors. So now I'm going to remove the door, and I'm going to use the spray foam along the bottom, and then once I've got it installed and bolted in, I'll spray the sides. Now here's what I have. You can see these are the brackets that are bolted into the side of the frame. I've got them put in up here just with some small panhead screws just to temporarily hold it. And then once I get it set in and fit and the foam is along the bottom, I'm going to use these lag screws, the same ones I put into the base, with the washers into the holes. I've already got pre-drilled holes for those screws, for the lag screws, and then I will foam the edges. Now I'm not going to have enough room to do anything at the top, I don't think. And so what I'm going to do is just caulk this with construction adhesive, and hopefully that will be, I mean, it shouldn't be a problem. The foam on the sides will hold it. It won't even need the brackets once the foam is dry, but the brackets are like, you know, overkill, and gives me a nice even reveal around the door. Gives me some adjustment side to side when I get it in there. So I'm going to go ahead and get this thing permanently installed. Okay, well, that is, let me back out here. That is fully sealed. I may have to squirt just a little bit more in some of these areas, but it is full. So it should be no problem as far as being sealed. And what I had left over from the can, I went ahead and filled most of this groove. It may still need some more. I don't know if it'll expand enough. I filled my holes where the hinges were, and I went all along the base on both sides so that I didn't waste any of the foam, because that stuff is pretty expensive. So I've got it sealed all the way around, and I'll just come through and cut off the excess once it's dry. But that makes it nice and sealed. Now I'm going to put some more concrete in the corners here and build that up a little bit. So I didn't want to put foam there just yet, but that's got it pretty sealed. And once I have everything assembled, I can go ahead and do another can and just hit all the gaps and crevices and cracks. As you can see here, here's a crack. So just to tighten it all up, and then once I've got all that done, I can come around with pieces. I can cut myself little trim pieces that will cover all of these grooves and gaps and seams, but that'll be later in the future. I'm not worried about that right now. That's not a priority. So yeah, pretty happy with the way that's turning out. And we'll let this door dry and get in place and come back tomorrow for some more. So I'm gonna go ahead and get my stuff cleaned up and put in the garage. All right, well, it's another day working on the greenhouse. So I found these two doors buried in my glass pile. So I'm gonna use those. And I've already removed the corner bracing. I've cut my lower supports, so I'm going to go ahead and screw those in. Then I can just sit the door on the support and bolt it in pretty easily. So I'm not sure if I'm going to put those corner supports back in. I think if I get this piece put in, if I get these doors put in, that's going to help strengthen up the rigidity of it. And then once I put some filler pieces here, probably plywood or OSB or something like that will go here on either side, because there's going to be probably a foot or more left over, maybe even close to 2 feet of a gap that I'm going to have to fill. So I'm going to go ahead and get these two pieces in and then set the doors in, and then I can measure and see what my gap is here, what my gap is on the bottom, and see what I have to do to fill that stuff in. All right, well, I have both of those installed my lower supports, and those were cut out of an old scrap piece of pallet wood, and that worked out perfectly. And now I need to fill in. I'm probably just gonna fill all these gaps in with OSB, and then I'm gonna have like a layer of styrofoam insulation in between. I've just got a bunch of scrap insulation that I can put in there. Here on the exterior pieces, I believe that's about 1.5 meters long. This is pretty far off the ground. There's an overhang all the way around, so I shouldn't have to worry about that. And then I can just cut the plywood to fit inside here and just make it kind of fit. And whatever doesn't fit tightly, I can just spray foam everything, and that will give it a nice seal. Okay, so today I'm going to be try to fill in all of these open areas, at least make some progress on it. So what I'm going to do, I've already got a few pieces cut here to fill in this hole and do some trim work between the windows. So what I'm using is old pallet lumber. I've got a bunch of old pallets, and I like the old patina that's on that lumber. And so I'm going to, and I have all these pallets that I don't have a use for other than using it for the lumber. So I've got a few pieces here that I've already cut, and I'm going to start disassembling some pallets and using some pallet wood that I already have disassembled to fill this stuff in. I'm just going to start cutting and bolting them on and just make my way around. The only thing so far that I've used that is new is all the hardware, the screws and bolts and anchors and all that stuff, of course, are new. And the 2x4s were new. I bought them for another project and I did not do that project. I decided to do something different, so I had those laying around. But yeah, and then the spray foam, of course. So far, I've spent very little money, maybe $50 in all of the hardware, the brackets, the anchors that hold the 4x4s, the L brackets, and all of the screws and anchors and things. So $50 is not too bad so far, and I may end up having to purchase the roofing material. I may have to purchase that, but I'm not going to do that until I have everything else done and it's ready for the roofing, and then I'll figure out what I need to do. At the moment, I'm thinking that it will probably end up being the polycarbonate, insulated polycarbonate panels like I have on the sunroom at the house. That is probably somewhere close to $500. So I'm not really looking forward to that. So I'm hoping I can find something else that'll work. So today I'm gonna try to get all of these holes filled in, except for the big one, and then maybe do some more trim work. All right, so we have all the holes, the major holes filled on the corners, and now on the front edge is all I need to do. And I believe I have come up with a good idea. I have these two really nice pallets here that are really close together. The slats are really close together. So I thought that these would make a good raised bed pallet system. And since they are almost the exact length here, I just need to cut off back corners. So these 3 slats that go across the back, I can completely remove those slats and screw them together here. Use that slat to bolt it together, make one long pallet, and then set it away from the wall slightly and have me another grow bed here on the outside that will be more of an evening sun. So this would be a nice place to have herbs and some other type things that will look really nice. So what I'm going to do is modify these pallets and make them fit against the wall here. And I'm going to take a piece of my greenhouse plastic here. This is really thin stuff, so it can't be the structure, but it can be what holds the dirt in place. This is going to be perfect to make a small grow bed. Okay, so I have removed the back boards from the pallets. I may have to trim them just a little bit, but I think they're gonna work just fine the way they are. I've got this old greenhouse door that I will not be using for anything else. It's already got structure built into it. And so what I think I'm going to do is bolt this door directly to the frame here. That will give me my initial structure and have some barrier there. Then I'm going to take another piece of greenhouse plastic and go over the top of that. That will start at one end and end at the other. Even if I have to splice it in between, that'll be fine. Then I can build out away from my corner post and get my pallet mounted. And I'm gonna take some of the scrap pieces. I have all these little small pieces that I've set aside here, and they're just not good pieces. They wouldn't be used for greenhouse. This one's got a big crack in it. So what I'm gonna do is cut these pieces down and put them in the back side of the pallets. And so I'll have the inside of the grow bed completely lined with scrap pieces of greenhouse plastic. And then when I go to the inside, I can do a layer of insulation in between here and then do another piece of greenhouse plastic from wall to wall. And then I'll build my grow bed into this section. So I'll have a grow bed coming out here, grow bed going out there. This will be perfect for the keyhole garden. Okay, thanks for watching, guys. We're gonna come back on the next video and get some more progress made. Any questions, comments, leave them down below. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.